Hello, Facebook. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Facebook.
Hello, Facebook.
We're assuming it's up. I don't know. Who knows? We'll find out. All right. Ron, are you ready? Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Truth Business Network radio program here on 99.3 FM. The Truth, I'm Chris Roloff with you on this fine morning, and we're glad that you've taken a moment to spend with us. Now, I say morning because we both record this, and its first airing on 99.3 is on Saturday morning, but you might be listening to this on a Saturday kind of evening. So don't be confused. You're not wrong. It is a little bit after 6 o'clock, and you're going to be just fine. So I probably shouldn't talk about what time of the day it is, with things being rebroadcast in the way that they are. And with digital media now, things can be shared, and somebody could be watching it at who knows when time.
Well, and you can all of a sudden have a lot of coffee in you, and maybe you need people to know it's morning.
That's right. That's right. Yes. So if we seem at all mildly sluggish, we're drinking coffee to keep up. So I'm Chris Roloff. The voice you just heard is Char Klisares. She is a real estate agent here in the Des Moines metro area, and she's our guest on the radio broadcast. Joel Smith is with us as well, per usual, and Ron Carlson is producing the broadcast and making us sound good. My natural voice doesn't actually sound like this. There's a filter that I pay extra for. My voice is actually very high.
It's like one of those filters that the kidnappers use on the movies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And my face is blurred out on the radio, so no one can see me.
Right.
Absolutely. So today we are going to learn all about Char. We're going to hear her story and hear who she is. But let's begin first by talking about what you do professionally. What is your business? You are a real estate agent. What in the world does that mean?
I'm a real estate agent with Remax Hilltops, located here in Des Moines over on Hubble Avenue. And I help people usually transition through life events. Usually something's going on in their life before they wake up and say, I've got to buy or I got to sell. People don't do that because they're bored. People do that because there's a need there.
Right, and that's something that I have, in our time together, have learned is a passion for you. Life events are a big deal to you. And that seems like a goofy thing to say, but I like that you appreciate that because you're right. None of us buy or sell a home just because we've got nothing else to do.
If you want to, call me. But more than likely, that's not the case.
So what are some of the life events that cause us to need to buy a new home or to sell our home?
Somebody gets a job transfer. Mm-hmm. Somebody graduates college. You're going to have more babies than you have bedrooms. I recently had one of those, and they found out they were having twins, so that accelerates it a little faster.
Yeah.
We've got death. We've got marriage, divorce. We've got just job moving to a whole new area. There's just a whole slew of different reasons. Downsizing, upsizing. People are maybe crunched on their budget, so they want to get out of a higher payment, or people are crunched in their house and they want to get into a bigger house. So lots of great stuff.
Char, how does knowing that affect the way that you do business? How does knowing that people are in some significant life event when they are selling or buying a home, well, usually doing both at the same time, I guess, how does that affect the way that you do your business?
Because it doesn't shut off at 5 o'clock. Wouldn't it be nice if we could all just check out at the end of the day and know that no life events are going to happen after 5 o'clock?
Yes.
Right, done. All right. So making sure that we never forget our most important person in the whole process is a client. And I'm sure they would love to have their life turn off at 5 o'clock and be able to just call me during normal business hours, but to be able to guide them and help coach them and just get them through. It's not just getting them through the sale or the buy of a house. It's also helping facilitate that life event at the same time and modeling them, being an anchor for them in a time where they might feel a little bit beat up, and being able to lead confidently is very important. And always being honest. I will always tell you what you want to hear. I will always tell you the truth. It may not be what you want to hear.
Right.
But I'm going to say it really nice. Really, really nice.
I imagine getting bad news from you would be okay.
Well, and I'll do it in a logical way, right?
Right.
And making sure that just being honest and not chasing a dollar to get them through the process of letting them know what all of their options are, even if some of those options don't involve me. I could still facilitate them by introducing them to some of the people I know in the industry, maybe a photographer or an attorney, if they're doing for sale by owners. I've always equated it to if I was in a restaurant and I hurt myself and there was a doctor there who just kind of stepped over me because I wasn't his patient, that wouldn't be very nice.
Right.
And so this is what I do full time for a living. And if I can help somebody, even if it's that servant leadership, that even if it doesn't turn into dollars in my business, it still leaves them better than I found them.
Char Klisares is our guest. Her name is spelled C-H-A-R. That's Char.
Not share.
Not share.
Somebody else did that.
Somebody else did that. You're Char, C-H-A-R, and your last name is spelled K-L-I-S-A-R-E-S, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I tell you that because you should Google that, and you will find her.
Yes, I'm the only one in the world.
Yeah, you're it. You're one of a kind.
Yes.
And Joel, you're in the studio with us, too. You've given me that look like you have a question to ask over there, or are you just paying attention? I don't want to ignore you, sir.
Oh, I'm paying attention, but I've always got questions asked. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So Char, one thing that you talked about servant leadership, and obviously, character and integrity goes along with that. Now, it seems to me that in the industry that you're in, there might be some shadowy characters at times that come in. So what you're talking about really stands out to people.
It really stands out, and at a time when they need it.
Right.
There's always balance to good in the world. It doesn't mean you have to buy into it. You just have to be the change of the light, and I believe in that. I believe in just being the change that you want to see. If nobody else is doing it, but it's still resonating inside of you, keep doing it. And so I clean up some of those messes from people who have maybe been led astray a little bit, and then they'll find their way to me just from referral and word of mouth.
Yeah, I think in any kind of a sales position, there's always a temptation that's going to bring people to the place where they want to just tell people what they want to hear and kind of really focus on the sale more so than the people. So I appreciate what you're saying. That's important.
Thank you. Well, and we all want our homes to be worth the most amount of money.
Right.
Yes, always. And to be able to have somebody who can show you in a logical way of where it's at currently. You know, when an agent's pricing a house, it's kind of like asking them to be a fortune teller. And if I had asked you how much gas is going to be in 2 weeks, you can kind of guess. And you might be close, but the day in 2 weeks that we go back to look, there might be some adjustment. So having somebody who can guide you through and then make sense of why the adjustments and where it's needed is really important.
Now, you had mentioned telling people the truth, even if it's not necessarily what they want to hear. You're going to say it in a nice way. I had an experience with a realtor several years back with my realtor was the greatest person. She just was awesome. But she was a people pleaser.
Yes.
And so she couldn't tell me the truth. I know I needed a lot more repairs on my house than I needed done, and she kept telling me, "Oh, things look good. Is everything fine?" And it bugged me, and we had to go a different direction. I'm sure you run into the same type of situation, don't you?
I do. I was actually on the phone with somebody last night who is listed with another agent, great agent, doing great work, and they were just calling to see if I had any advice for them. And I'm always willing to help give that, and just especially when I've never been in your home before, so the first time I'm seeing it, that's going to be the same experience a buyer would have visiting your home. And so sometimes when you've got a relationship that is, especially somebody who's very familiar with it, it's harder for them to see those things if they're in your home a lot.
Right.
So yeah, and I don't believe that there's a lot of intention of misleading. It's just sometimes not having the knowledge. And when we're looking, sometimes when you go to look at the market, you will find things to justify the way you want to see it. However, when you come at the market a few different ways, then you get a balanced perspective.
Right.
And that's where it's most important, is that you're coming from a few different angles so that you can justify where you're at.
Sure.
I've always said it's kind of like if you bought Apple stock 10 years ago for $55 a share, and today it was selling for $45 a share. The buyer of that stock doesn't care what you paid for it or what you need. It just is.
Right.
And so you've got to be able to just read the market.
Char Klisares is our guest. Her name is spelled C-H-A-R. I say that because on the radio I can't type it to you, but go ahead and Google that. She's a real estate agent here in Des Moines, and she's on the Truth Business Network radio program, and you're a part of the Truth Business Network, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But one of the things that you said earlier, even in the broadcast, is you talked about this chasing the almighty dollar thing. You talked about chasing the dollar, and you and I were talking before the radio broadcast that 99.3 is a Christian radio station, but we are a for-profit company. We need to make money.
Correct.
And we make money the old-fashioned way. We don't ask for handouts. We're not a charity. We actually have to sell airtime and get business that way. But we do things that express our values first. And tell us a little bit how you work out giving back first. How do you give back before you make money?
Well, there's a few different ways. First and foremost, it is through volunteering of time.
Right.
And I'm very lucky to be in a profession that I can create my own schedule. So I had taught exit strategy classes out at Mitchellville's women's prison and had made some promises to the girls out there that as they, takes them about 10 years to get to a place where they can buy a home. It's an uphill climb for them, but when it comes time for them to buy a home, I want to be there to help them. And I'm willing to even see them through the whole process and make sure they're connected into some good networks. And so leading by example and also in my own business of being able to do pro bono work if I find somebody who's stuck. It's never usually somebody who's asking me to do pro bono work because that's not how that works. It's just through word of mouth, or I find out that somebody is in a domestic violence situation, or there's a situation where they need to transition quickly. So being able to do what I feel called to do and being able to do it in a way that one of my favorite stories is a family I had found who had just found out they had lost a baby. And she was right in the middle of she had just found out. And to be able to bless them and do some pro bono work, and she wasn't a believer. When I first met her, I remember walking in and I had thought on the way there, what could I possibly say to her to make this better for a moment? And so I walked in and I had said, I'm so sorry that we have to meet under these terms, and I know that God will make sense of this. And she just kind of balked and kind of dismissed me and said, I don't believe in God, he does. Okay, take the shoe out of my mouth for a minute and get focused back into work. And at the end to be able to say, I want to do this for you and I want to do pro bono work. And she just started crying. And she was like, why are you doing this? And I said, I don't think that you believe in the reason why I'm doing this.
Good answer.
That is a good
answer.
And
that's the last time I kind of mentioned it, because I know that God will do the rest. God will do the work that's needed. I just need to lead the way and walk the walk.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Char, you said something in that bit of that story that maybe people heard, maybe they didn't. I heard it. You were teaching exit strategies to women in prison. Why would you do such a thing? That's not something I want to do on a weekend. I don't know.
Well, I had done it because I had thought that's where I would have ended up with the childhood and where I came from. I thought I had a lot more in common with them than I did with business people and entrepreneurs, because I didn't come from this successful line of people or even college graduates or business owners. I had come from just a very poor line of that's where I was from. And so I had a pretty tough childhood, and I think if the trajectory had gone a different way, I could have easily ended up there. So I wanted to go where I thought I had more in common, but what I now know is I have everything in common with everyone. And the beautiful thing I learned from going and volunteering, it was a little over 2 years. They had to take my class to get out, and it was preparing them with interview skills. And there's a lot of things that I remember thinking somebody taught me. I didn't know there was a difference between day makeup and night makeup. I didn't know the difference on how you really dress for interviews. And it's not that a lot of people show up in pajama bottoms because they want to. It's just no one has ever told them not to. And that is what they saw modeled for them. So why would they think anything different? And so when we're seeing that behavior, it's not a behavior that should annoy us. It's a behavior that should make us get curious and then in a loving way educate them. And so going and being able to share with them, these are very important skills for them, because if they don't get jobs and hold jobs, they're probably going to come back very quickly. And so getting some really good seeds in there. It's also, every class I taught, I would always walk in. Most of the time, all my outfits come from Goodwill or a thrift store. And so I look like I call a GTS. It's a goody two-shoe. But I'm not a GTS, but I look like a GTS. And so I look like $1 million, but it doesn't have to cost it. And so at the end to say, I got the last half an hour to just kind of do a testimony to them and tell my story, share my story, and to say, where do you guys think I'm from in all of this? And it was neat to see how they thought I was from this white picket fence of a childhood, and to remind them that, this isn't their defining moment. That some of the best people the world's ever known, like Nelson Mandela, didn't really get started till he was 47. You're not too old. You're not too young. You're not too rich. You're not too poor. You're not too anything. You're just getting started. And so let this be that moment, and to equip them with things that would go on to create their ripple. And if anything, I mean, my voice is, I do a lot more speaking and coaching, and a lot of people don't want to do that, but there's still a little Char in their life somewhere who needs them to plug in and wake up and stop doing this kind of thing of coming back in prisons and to really just go take a look in the mirror.
Char Klisares is our guest here on the Truth Business Network radio program. Char Klisares, let me spell her name. Char, C-H-A-R, Klisares, K-L-I-S-A-R-E-S.
There will be a test at the end.
That's right. Stay tuned. We're going to hear where she really came from when we get back.
Interesting.
Just for a second. We try to start Facebook. We don't want to do a lot of before the show starts, but now we're in it, and so people are there.
They're going to keep watching us.
Yeah. So hi, Allison and Jerry.
I'm going to go share it on my page just to get more people
absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Ryan. Hey, Jill. Jerry. All right. So this is the Truth Business Network radio program. We're streaming it on Facebook. This broadcast will air once again on Saturday at 8 a.m. and Saturday at 6 p.m. So I encourage you guys to check that out when you're driving around. It was actually really funny. I have to tell you this story, Joel. I was driving this past weekend, and here's a secret. No one's listening. It's just you and me. So I get
to hear a lot of secrets.
So sometimes I don't listen to 99.3, and so sometimes I listen to country music. And so I'd been listening to The Outlaw, and which plays a lot of the country music I like. And then I started flipping through my other presets, and I hit 99.3, but I was just punching presets to go to other something else. And I heard a country song I really love. Well, it was this Travis Tritt song at the beginning of this show. I was like, oh, I love that song. And I just stopped, and I went, wait a minute. And I looked down at my radio. It's like, it's 99.3. I caught myself. I was standing, and I caught myself. Nice. I was like, I want to keep listening to this. And then it was funny to hear me come in and start talking. I was like, that guy, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing good. That radio guy. It's
kind of like when you find $20 that you lost like 5 years ago, and you're excited, but then you realize, wait, this was already mine.
That's right. Wait, I didn't really get anything. Oh, that's funny.
So do you have the same song every week?
I do. Okay. I do. So this song has sort of become the theme song to the show. And I don't always talk about this, but I love the lyric because it's that proclamation, this Travis Tritt song, I'm gonna be somebody. And that's that positive attitude. Mm-hmm. That was his benchmark. He's going to. He's not going to listen to anybody else. And he does get there. And the song ends because it doesn't end with him just achieving. So I don't know if you know the song, but the last verse of the song is he's singing on stage. He is somebody. He's Travis Tritt now, and there's a
Crying.
kid. I know.
Yes.
And there's a kid in the audience singing it back at him. I'm going to be somebody. And so it's just that. I just love it. I love it, and it's a positive song. Makes me feel
It's
better
like the
about
positive
myself.
version of Cats in the Cradle. Not the bad version.
Right,
the good version where you're going to go on to do good things,
That's
not
right.
be missing your dad. Yes.
That's right. It's
Good.
the happy version.
Yeah, it's the happy version.
So, anyway, so what a great rabbit trail. So yeah, we're going to go kick back into the radio program. Facebook, feel free to stick with us. Ask questions if you have questions for Char, her story, or you've got real estate related questions, or just anything you want to know where she does get her snazzy outfits. Because I do every time. It gives me pause every time she says that. And I will tell you that I am a treasure hunter. So I go to thrift stores, but I search for board games. That's my thing I collect. But now, because of you, I'm thinking, wait, I could be a snazzy dresser if I just go away from the toys and the books and I go over to where the clothes is. So
Yes.
that's kind of exciting. So
And that's what it is. It's a treasure hunt.
it is, and it's a lot of fun. I used to do that when I was in high school, all my clothes in high school, but I got the weird things. You know,
Yes.
I didn't get anything to look professional. I got goofy stuff. A buddy of mine, everything he wore was a work shirt. Everything was like, had some other dude's name tag on it. You know what I
Today's
mean?
Kyle.
Cliff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, that was fantastic. It was the 90s.
It's Fred
wasn't it?
Friday.
It's Fred. That's right. All right. So, all right, we're ready. This is a 15 segment, and we're going to hear where Char comes from. Yes, sir. Where did you come from? Where did you come from? Not just this morning. I mean, you got up and you got in your car and you're driving around now. You're headed somewhere. I'm not necessarily interested in where you came from in that sense. But where did you come from? Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Iowa? Did you grow up in Texas? I grew up in Texas. Where did you grow up? That's the question I'm asking you. But really, I'm going to, because you can't answer me right now. I mean, you might be watching on Facebook. You could type there. You could be listening on the radio. You can't answer me, I guess. You could hammer out a text to the Ace Hardware of Ankeny and Johnson text line, which is 515-727-5842, and tell me where you're from. But today I'm actually going to turn that question to our guest. Char Klisares is our guest. He's a real estate agent here in the Des Moines metro area. And we have gotten to know each other because you showed up to the Truth Business Network lunch once,
Yes.
twice, and you keep coming back.
I keep coming back.
We're going to talk about why you keep coming back soon, but first I want to go back to where you came from. Char, where did you come from?
I was born in Anderson, Indiana.
Okay.
So I was a Hoosier, but just for the first couple years. I don't remember a lick of it,
So
for the most part.
we can forgive you for that.
You can forgive me for that.
Hey, that's by
But I don't know if you're going to forgive the next place, so that's where you might want to keep the Hoosier there.
Okay.
The next place, I moved to Dayton, Ohio with my mom. I had two older siblings and a younger sibling and moved there. Didn't have any family around us, so it was a nice little tight clan. All of us were pretty stacked together in age and spent all of my years in Huber Heights, Ohio, which is right outside of Dayton.
Okay.
It was great. Des Moines reminds me a lot of what Huber Heights was back then. And when I was 18, wind came along and I followed it and ended up down in Virginia Beach, traveled the United States for a little bit, was a little bit lost. And I ended up meeting my ex-husband, the father of my children. He was in the Navy. We had our daughter together. He didn't get to see her until she was 5 months old.
Oh, wow.
This is before cell phones, before internet. The dinosaurs were still walking around with us back then.
That's right.
And so he was one of the first ones to come off the ship to be able to see our daughter, who was 5 months old. And he finished his tour in Virginia Beach. We ended up coming. He's from here, Des Moines, Urbandale area. And he's got a lot of family here. So this was fantastic. They've got grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins galore. And that's how I ended up here. Stayed home with them when they were little. daycare for 3 kids. Anybody knows is an arm and a leg. So I just did daycare. And once the kids all got into school, got into sales, got into real estate about 5 years ago. And yeah, it all makes sense now looking back on how everything led to everything else.
Yeah.
I didn't know when I originally got into real estate how much it would really align with my purpose and my own mission of being helpful and helping people through life events. So, yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh, we want to come back to that for sure, your purpose and mission. We had another one of the Truth Business Network members, King Smith, was on last week, and he talked about how if we have goals and we set our goals, whether they're business or professional, and they're just the goals that our company wants or the goals that somebody else wants for us, when we reach them, we find ourselves unsatisfied, no matter what they are. Even if they're big and beautiful and wonderful, if they don't line up with our purpose and our values, then they won't really satisfy. So I'd like to come back to that a little bit. But part of what makes me want to ask this is you said in the beginning of the broadcast, too, that you taught exit strategies to women in prison. And you said because you felt like if things hadn't gone a different way, that may have been where you ended up. So why would that have been?
Well, I came from a very dysfunctional childhood. I was in and out of foster care. There was a lot of abuse. And I was basically just in survival mode. It was incredibly abusive and dysfunctional. So having come out of that, and as I was going through it, I can look back on different memories. As a child, I remember walking to school for school events like concerts and stuff. I never had a face in the audience, but you would pass me in the car with your parents, and I'd be all happy waving. It was beautiful looking back because it's almost like God had his hands on my ears, because I didn't ever realize that that wasn't normal, because that was my normal. And because that was my normal, until you actually get away from that, or I found out once I had my own children, that was like, wow, that was pretty important. Somebody probably should have been there. And so it's beautiful looking back on how much I was protected from realizing just how bad it was. And when it's all you know, you don't realize how bad it is until there's a few more years and you have your own children and you can realize, oh, that was really bad. and then to not repeat the cycle. I remember with my children when they were 7 or 8, busy ages, and they like to just pick on each other. And hard rule at my house was you can't touch somebody else. It's just not allowed. You're not allowed to hit. And sure enough, they'd be passionate or crying about something. And I was like, listen, we just don't hit. If there was any hitting, I'm first in line, okay? Because you were really naughty one time, and I didn't hit you. So there's just no hitting allowed in this house. And we can use our words. You have bedrooms. You can learn different tactics. But to get through raising 3 children and having them all launched, one's already an ISU graduate, and I have 2 at Iowa. So it's definitely a house divided, but it's unevenly divided now.
As long as Iowa State's winning, that's
right. I'm just on the fence, right? Whose house are we at and what team do they like is what I ask. So to break that cycle, and it's not an overnight break. It's not an overnight change. It's a compounded effort, because there's a lot of reprogramming that has to go in. And it really doesn't start because somebody opens a door and tells you that you need to do it. You just have to start. And then my faith was very important on guiding me and when I would feel a pull to go in one direction or another. So when I jumped into real estate, there was an opportunity to come teach exit strategy classes at Mitchellville, and I jumped all over it because I always am looking for things to give back and to lead. And in my past, I was president of Professional Women in Home Building, and they do some community projects, and my kids were young and made them go to all of those. So I think all of that's good stuff for kids to see.
Yeah.
And even though they're complaining, it doesn't matter. It's good for them to see.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I wrote down here in my note is the word bitter. Hearing your story and hearing the things that you went through, you have this positive attitude about it, and you talk about it, and you just kind of move past it. What prevented you from being incredibly bitter and angry about all that you've suffered through?
There were probably moments throughout that there was periods, a day or hours or something that were angry and bitter. I know with all emotion, you have to allow it to flow through you. You can't just deny it or turn your head on it. You have to just, okay, right now for an hour or 24 hours, I'm going to be angry. And it's what you do with it that is is what matters. You know, if you're going around being angry and making other people angry, that's not very good. And so just realizing it's a choice. And then through life events, realizing that most of the stuff we want to stress doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And the big things that matter typically aren't being affected. You know, I remember just going through life events. This last year I had a event that I had talked about in detail at the Truth Business Network. Was it 4 weeks ago? It was,
I believe
yeah,
it was
about 4 weeks ago. So if you want to see the video, visit the Facebook page and go back. I have a purple dress on because purple is symbolic for domestic violence. So when I'm going to speak about that, I typically wear purple. And it was an abusive relationship I'd gotten into, and this person created quite a bit of chaos in my life. And chaos is just a really good word. But I knew from the beginning that it's just it's for my better. Mm-hmm. Even when it didn't feel like it was for my better, I knew from the beginning it's for my better. And I think a lot of that had to come with all the trials and tribulations I've gone through. There is definitely a trust in my faith, and to just say, God, if you're bringing me here, there must be things you need me to do, people you need me to meet, and I'm going to trust you on this. And this last year was probably the hardest period I've ever gone through. And I can't imagine having gone through it without my faith, but being able to go to the Bible, and this is where it went really deep. And I didn't read the Bible. I walked the Bible. I went to the garden with Jesus. And I know what that prayer is because I made that prayer of, this doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how this is happening. And when Jonah was in the belly of the whale, he didn't know it was going to be 3 days.
Right.
And so when I was in day 2, I would go to my Bible and seek those stories out because I didn't know how long this event was going to take. I thought it would go away as quick as it came on, and it didn't. And so then once that went away, then I went and found another story. It was Noah. And what was beautiful about that, because God likes that 40 number a lot,
Yeah.
was, day 13 and day 27 were really hard for me, and they had to be pretty hard for Noah. We read the story and we hear 40 days and 40 nights and we just go on to the next sentence, but to realize he didn't know it was going to be 40 days and 40 nights. And so when I'm on day 13 and Noah's on day 13, and it was a hard day for me to think, you know what, this was really hard for him. And you just have to walk in faith, and you have to have hope. Don't ever give up hope of this will make sense. So through that process of going through trials and tribulations, there's always somebody who doesn't have it as good as you. So I would still seek those volunteer opportunities out, still making sure that I'm mentoring agents in real estate, making sure that I'm giving back, making sure that I'm helping the people who are important to me to get me through those moments. And then once 40 days and 40 nights went, my story ended on day 200, which was Good Friday. I'm telling you, that was not a coincidence, okay? I know that wasn't a coincidence. Yes, it was a great... and I kicked Noah's butt like 5 times. Okay, I'm 5 times longer than that. But it was a beautiful process. So how can I get bitter when I ended up getting better through it? In the moments when it didn't make sense, in the moments where I wanted to get mad, I would just go back to God to say, I need you to soften this because I don't like how it feels sitting inside of me. It makes you sick. It keeps you up. It makes you not eat. And I would just go back and say, God, soften this. And he would soften it. And it would make sense. And one of the things is when this event happened to me, a lot of people cleared out of my life. And a lot of people I had done a lot of good things for. And I got a little mad. And I went back and prayed to God and said, God, make sense of this. And he said, Char. I didn't hear voices. It was just thoughts. If your house was on fire, you don't get mad at people running out of your home to save themselves. Your house is on fire. Your life was on fire. And just like when your house is on fire and there's a truck full of strangers who pull up called firemen, there were firemen in my life that pulled up that I didn't know before. And I'm so grateful that they were in those positions and had been years before I needed them to be there. And so through that process of just focusing on the good is really what got me through that. And I think looking back on my whole life, that's where it's all for my better. Through that process, it also made me very thankful, so thankful for my childhood, because it was there that I never really got acceptance outside of me anyway. Because I was never a naughty kid, but I was just a little dirty. I wasn't always dressed right. I was very annoying and loud. So I could still do that. And I didn't learn to get my acceptance outside of me. I got it from myself and God. And so going through what I went through this last year and having this loud echo resonate through all areas of my life, I found that going back to what I've known I could lean on was always there, and it got me through the hard stuff.
That's fantastic. Char Klisares is our guest. That is the voice you were listening to. Char, her name is spelled C-H-A-R, last name K-L-I-S-A-R-E-S. CharKlisares.com is her website. Can I give out the number that's on your card?
Absolutely.
Here? Her phone number is 515-639-0039. She is a real estate agent. So she was sharing all this story, and the thing that I love about your story, I would spend the rest of my life trying to explain to you how much I love it. But it relates to your business, because every time we find ourselves in a situation to buy or sell our home, we're in some kind of life situation. And you've been in some pretty serious life situations. Yes. And so she can relate to you and your needs. So stay tuned. We've got more with Char Klisares when we come back right here on the Truth Business Network radio program on the Truth 99.3 FM. I'm going to grab some coffee real quick. What's that?
Does he have us turned off?
Okay. Yeah, we're off the radio.
I love that. The Truth.
The Truth.
We're still on Facebook.
We're still on Facebook. So we can't say anything rude to the people on Facebook.
We wouldn't anyway.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's fantastic. Don Anderson, Josh, Charles Roloff. That's my dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Don. Don and I keep trying to meet up for coffee, and we're like two ships passing. We can meet up on Facebook. Good to see you, Don.
I'm going to grab just a little bit more coffee, and then I'll come right back. Do you need water or anything?
Yes.
Water.
You've got some water.
I do have water.
Yeah, I don't think you want me to have more coffee. I'll be
you need to
coming
be
over.
a little bit more wired, right?
Yeah, right. Just a little bit more. Yeah.
So your story about the past year, it was really good because you didn't tell the whole story, so there's a little teaser in there. So when
go watch it.
When we come back, we'll have to definitely touch on where they can go to hear the rest of that. So
yes. Well,
good.
and I put it out. It's on my YouTube channel too. I have a virtual assistant that drops everything to video and puts it on our YouTube, so it's out there too. So
Facebook.
And I believe we have the Christian Business Network, not the Truth Business Network, on that video. So it would help people find you.
Yep,
Fantastic. We really appreciate that.
Where did you get this wonderful cup?
Isn't that neat? It actually has a lid. It's a D20. If you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons,
No,
these are
but
critical.
that's okay.
Oh, you ruined it.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's a die actually. So it's a 20-sided dice.
Nice.
So whenever you in role-playing games such as the Dragons, whenever you do something, you have to roll to see if it works or not. So if there's a dragon and I'm going to use this spell to beat the dragon, I still have to chuck dice to see if it works.
I noticed everybody on Facebook is tuning out now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a lot. If you're on the internet,
come back.
Internet people know about Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so anyway, this was a birthday gift. Yeah, so I have lots of dice. Only you, Chris. That's right. Okay, all right. So we are going to. These segments unfortunately start getting shorter.
That's all right.
So the next one's 10 minutes. Yeah, Charles, my dad says, "Love your story, Char."
Aw, thank you.
Yeah, it's quite powerful. And just for those on Facebook, as a reminder, you can find her story in kind of more of its entirety on your YouTube channel, right?
Correct.
What is your YouTube channel?
If you just Google Char Klisares YouTube, you'll find it.
Okay.
But the video is under the Daily Dose of Char. I've been putting positive videos. So when I was going through this incident last year, I was making positive videos every couple of days of what I was going through and how God wanted that to be turned into a parable or a testament I would put out there.
Right.
Because we can't control what we go through, just how we go through it.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure what I was throwing out there was positive. So they'll find it on that channel.
I just think that's so fantastic. I think that's so fantastic. And it's really, honestly, it's something that I personally struggle with. I was actually just listening to Zig Ziglar yesterday, trying to be like, positive. He's so stinking positive. That guy. You can't, I don't think you can listen to Zig and feel bad.
Nope.
He's just great.
He'd come back from heaven and pop you on the nose if he did.
yeah, he wouldn't like that. So, all right. So let's rip through this here. And Joel, you got some questions you want to ask? You want me to go right to you?
I don't have anything off the top of my head. I
Sure?
can always come up with questions. But
was there something that your wife wanted you to ask, or do we want to talk about that?
Kind of hit on it.
No, we kind of hit on that. Yeah.
Did we get to it? Okay.
We'll hit on it more.
Okay, so I have one thing that
Okay.
that kind of hit me. So you had mentioned, and we can redo this on the radio, but you mentioned a quote that you have everything in common with everyone, and I thought that was really good. That's it shows a kind of a relational mindset.
Yes.
And so I think that's really good. So I don't know.
There's a movie out in theaters right now called The Same Kind of Different as Me. And I went and saw that Sunday night. I had the whole theater to myself. And it's a good thing I did, because I was bawling and making noises that would creep people out if they were sitting next to me.
We got to, so Mike Damastis, who hosts, you can see this on Facebook. Faithworks Live is also done in the studio, and he got to interview the producer of that.
Oh.
And he got a screening, and he sat right here and watched it on I came in, and he was just a wreck. And it's an incredible book. True story happened in my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas, and the Union Gospel Mission there. Just incredible.
It is. It's a beautiful story.
Definitely go see that Facebook.
Yes.
Same Kind of Different in theaters. Okay,
yes.
Let's do our last 10-minute video. I'll let you bring up the everything in common with everyone.
And the Secret Foundation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We got lots to talk about.
We do. I just. All right.
That's all right.
One of these days I'm going to be a professional.
Is it just one more? Is this?
We got two more.
Got it. That's what I thought.
The last one's super short.
Got it.
He misspoke.
This is the last one of substance. Just kidding. Thanks, Dominic. All right, here we go. At some point in our lives, we find ourselves in a situation where we've got to move. We've got to move. Now, sometimes that's a convenient, easy, maybe you're excited about it, your family's growing, it's a happy time, you've got more kids, you need a bigger house, or sometimes things aren't going really great and you've got to move. Today, our guest is Char Klisares. She's a real estate agent, the Char Klisares real estate team. You can find Char on the internet in lots of ways. I'm going to spell her first name, C-H-A-R, Klisares. I'm telling you, if you get that one even close, you're going to find her. She's one of a kind, literally. But charklisares.com, or you can call her at 515-639-0039. And you can also find her on YouTube with a daily dose of Char. And we're going to mention that again later, because the story you were telling just a few minutes ago is kind of in its entirety on Daily Dose of Char, right?
It is. I had, from the very beginning, started, making videos of what I was going through and how I could squeeze the good out of it, turn it into a story or a parable. It was about 10-minute long, and just started putting those out there. And it was really neat to see the momentum that it got, and how many people, before I went through this trial, I would put a video out there and pay money to get it to go out, and I was lucky to get 1,000 people to watch it. Well, through this process, I was putting videos out there, and within hours, I would have 5,000 to 10,000 people watching it, and I didn't have to pay anything. So for me, it was obviously there's a need. People are thirsty for a positive message, and if they didn't know what I was going through, because it was mainly here local that people knew what I was going through, but my audience is a lot bigger than that. If they didn't know what I was going through, it was still feeding everybody where they're at.
Absolutely, and powerful stuff. And if you didn't hear the beginning of this, I definitely encourage you to go to Daily Dose of Char on YouTube and hear part of her story, because it does resonate. And we talked about this for your business. It resonates quite a bit because you recognize that life events happen, and that's what causes us to buy or sell homes. And that's not just rhetoric to you. You know, a lot of real estate agents know that,
Right.
and it's rhetoric. It's the thing they're supposed to say, and they're supposed to be there, and they're supposed to be kind. But at the end of the day, they're just trying to make a buck, and they make a pretty okay buck when they sell your house for you,
Yes.
or help you, whatever. And there's money to be made, and your time is valuable, and you should get paid for that. But you genuinely have patience for people and kindness, and can resonate and listen to their story. And anybody who's spent time with you, Char, can attest to the truth of that. Also in the studio with us is Joel Smith. He is a regular co-host of the Truth Business Network radio program. And Joel, you had some things you wanted to talk with Char about as well.
Oh yeah. So I'm a leadership guy, and I'm a John Maxwell team guy. So I love talking about connecting with people and communicating. And John Maxwell has a book. He's got a book that's called "Everyone Communicates, but Not Everyone Connects."
Yes.
Okay. And in that book, he talks about find the 1% that you have in common with other people. Now, you said something in an earlier segment. You said that you have everything in common with everyone. I thought that was fascinating, and it made me think a lot. And I think that's your secret sauce to connecting. Am I right?
Yes, and I read John Maxwell books too.
Oh,
that might help.
tell me about
That does help.
Yeah.
It's all, what you put in is what you get out. So I don't put a lot of garbage in my day or in my brain or allow myself to be around it. I don't watch a lot of just junk television. If I'm going to watch something, it's going to teach me something or feed me good energy, good vibes. And so what I now know that I wish I had known younger is that we have everything in common with everyone. We all have the same basic needs, and that is to be heard and to be understood. And while somebody may not agree with you, but you just feel you've been heard, and that there's the one thing the world cannot get enough of is love. And so just love them. Just love them. I don't have to agree. I don't even have to buy into what they're doing, but just to be heard is a form of love.
Sure.
And letting people know through a time of transition, a life transition, that they're loved is really important. And then for me, it's all in, walking the faith and helping other people get there. I did not grow up in a household that had faith in it. I didn't grow up in a household where I saw my parents reading the Bible and saying prayer. I grew up in a household that I was put on a bus when I was about 8. It was that neighborhood free bus that was free daycare on Wednesdays and Sundays. And that's where I learned about cream corn. The Sunday afternoon lunch at church was delicious. And yeah, if you went to both services, you got to eat lunch. But I was that kid. And for 2 years, there was a lot of seeds planted. And I don't ever have any regrets. But if there is just one regret in my life, it's that I never learned the name of the bus driver. I never knew to ask. I didn't realize at the time how important he would be. And so today, in my busiest day, if you tell me you're a bus driver, I screech to a halt, and I will cancel the rest of my day to spend time with you, because it's making up for that is what I think. I think, how many times do we hear of somebody who has a title or a job and we want to dismiss it? Oh, you're just a bus driver. Well, look what this person did in my life. And he showed up, and he was consistent, and he was loving, and I was loud at the back of the bus, and I probably didn't listen very good, but he didn't ever make me not feel wanted. And through that, and through going to church, and you know what, there were plenty of times where I was asleep in the back pew, and I'm sure that plenty of adults were disgusted with me sleeping, but look what that turned into. I didn't learn God anywhere else. The seeds were planted then. And through that, they grow, and they grow, and they grow, and they grow. And so what I know is that I have everything in common with everyone through that experience, through my life experiences. And it's a matter of just slowing down to connect and find what is it. Because as soon as you find one little string or one little fiber, there's more. You just have to find the one. And it doesn't usually take that long.
Right.
Char Klisares is our guest. Char is spelled C-H-A-R. Char Klisares is a real estate agent here in the Des Moines metro area, and she is wearing purple today. And purple is a color that is synonymous with what?
Domestic violence.
Thank
and
you.
actually,
I was going to say something else. Domestic violence.
The Minnesota Vikings.
I am sports illiterate. All right, I have no clue if that's a football or basketball team. I have no clue.
It's both. It's all
both,
the
all
things.
right.
They've got a ball in it. I don't know.
But October is actually Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Ah, okay.
And so I wanted to wear purple every day of this month, but I didn't have that many outfits and couldn't find that many that quickly. But yes, domestic violence is something that has been a common thread throughout my life.
Yes.
And so putting things in place that will bring awareness and change, because it is also the one thing that isn't hereditary, yet it continues. And it continues because it is experienced. And once it's experienced, or once it's watched, that's what feeds into that cycle of continuing. And a lot of why it continues and why it's allowed is just we keep it quiet. Or people don't want to step up and be heard, or people don't want to bring the light to the topic that needs to be brought to it, because they'll say that half of everybody is impacted by domestic violence, and I believe the number is a little higher, 75%. And so after this last year of what I went through, there was a pretty pivotal day in a 6-month process that really had me feeling defeated. And it was just some things that had happened in the courtroom, and I was always one that had thought that the truth will set you free and you respect authority. And I guess I live in Disneyland and there's butterflies too, I guess. But I was really defeated on this one day. So I let myself feel the emotion. And then the next day it was, okay, what can I do today that would make me feel empowered to keep going? And so I created the Secret Foundation. And the Secret Foundation is spelled C-K-R-E-T, Secret. And that's Char Klisares Real Estate Team. Because the person who did this to me had said from the beginning he was going to put me out of business, he was going to take me down, he was going to smear my name, and he did all of that for a while. But he can't stop a good thing with lies.
That's
and
right.
so the Secret Foundation, we have a Facebook page, it does go out to Twitter. The whole goal of it is if you know somebody moving anywhere in the United States, and they need real estate assistance, put them in touch with us. We'll find them an agent that can help them, and they'll give 25% of their commission to a local domestic violence shelter.
Secret Foundation is C-K-R-E-T Foundation. Find them online. We'll be more with Char Klisares when we come back. This is going to be an even faster 5 minutes.
I know.
I wanted to be able to transition into Secret Foundation so that we could get to the break, and then all the last 5 minutes is Secret Foundation.
Yay!
Is that fine with you?
That's fine.
Okay. So I think that's really cool, and we got to have a focus for that 5 minutes, or we won't get anything done.
Well, and that's one of the things of. I know the change that's going to go on to create. I know. Because it doesn't require people to change any behavior at all. It's just and it doesn't cost anything. Just put them in touch with this. If you've been impacted by domestic violence, put them in touch with this. We'll put them in touch with an agent. Agents are always looking for leads. You're going to give some of your, because the needs here are different in other areas. So I'm excited to see that ripple it creates.
Absolutely.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is it a good radio question?
Yeah. It might be. You want me to wait?
I don't know.
I was just going to ask. So with this whole Weinstein thing and the Me Too thing, I mean, I know it's a little bit different than domestic violence, but there's a connection. How is that? How's that connected? What kind of effect is that having? You know,
it's all the same. It's kind of like saying, and this is God right now just talking through me because the answers. It's kind of like saying there's a difference between a broken arm and a broken leg.
Right.
They're both broken bones.
Yeah.
So there's a common thread that happens through it, and a lot of it is continued because people don't speak up.
And it's probably the same spirit behind both of them.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
a controlling.
It is.
Whatever,
Misogynistic, usually.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a power thing. It's a power thing. You know what I mean? It's guys in any kind of power or work environment feel like they're just entitled and they can speak in a way.
Well, and it goes both ways because there are men out there who, when I was going through my situation, I remember thinking there are other people. At first, I thought women, because I am one. That's what I know best.
Sure.
But there's
You know how to be a woman.
Right, I know how to be a woman. Right.
That's good.
That there's got to
Some
be
people
men
don't.
here too.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's even some of the problem is that men don't even speak up because it doesn't make them less manly.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't speak up.
right,
And
yeah.
so it's just something that it's allowed to fester. And
Yeah.
anytime anything festers, it creates an infection. And
Sure.
that's what's going on.
Yeah.
But I've got oxygen and soap, and I'm going to clean it. I'm going to try because I don't like that word. There is no
Right.
try. I'm going to make some changes.
Yeah, I hear you. John Maxwell doesn't like that word
Yeah, I
either.
don't
He
like
talks about that.
that three-letter word.
Yoda doesn't
I
like
know.
it
I want to
either.
get my Yoda voice out. There is no try. Hank would be so happy with me. That's my coach.
Can you imagine the conversation between John Maxwell and Yoda?
It would be great. We should. I bet you we could probably
Maxwell John?
fabricate.
Connect few do.
Connect few do. Yeah. Oh my goodness, this just got weird.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry. We
No,
really
that's fine.
apologize, Facebook.
This is what Facebook pays extra for. See,
It's
Yeah.
the behind-the-scenes
behind
stuff
the
that you get.
Bonus material.
Yeah, the bonus footage.
raw, unedited.
Raw.
All right, so here we go. Yeah, this will be my goal here is just Secret Foundation.
All right.
Yep, you're on Twitter and Facebook. That's what I was looking for. Perfect. No, I want to make this famous. Let's stop it
Yes.
from being a secret. I think it's just, yeah.
Well, and how lucky is that name?
That's
The
so
Secret
cool.
Foundation.
That's so cool.
That's divine.
It is. I will say, as a radio guy, it frustrates me though because I wouldn't spell it that way on the
I know.
radio.
Well, and what I
have
love
to
about
figure
it
that
is
out.
that once it catches on and people will say, how did you come up with that name?
Right.
Well, it's the business that my abuser tried to destroy.
Ah, it's-
You can only make bigger. That's how God works.
You are a stinking rock star, Char. I just want you to know that. All
Thank
right.
Stinking rock star.
Stinking.
I mean that in the best positive way. I realize that.
I'm a good smelling stinking rock star.
You are a
Stinking
rock star that smells awful. No, I'm
Yes.
just kidding. I had, what was I doing? My daughter, anyway. I did,
It's because she needed to wear purple all month long and she didn't have
Exactly,
enough.
right? I know. We're at the end of the month now. Yeah.
oh, man. That's right, Dominic. That's why you watch on Facebook. It's the best to see you all do the stuff of radio as yourselves. That's right. We try to be honest on the air as well. All right, this will be a quick 5 minutes, all about Secret Foundation. That's our goal. Ourselves oftentimes in situations in our lives that are happy, and sometimes they're not very happy, but it's a life situation that comes to us that causes us to need to buy a new home, to sell a home, to get out of the home situation we're in. And one of the most awful situations you can find yourself in is one of domestic violence. And when you find yourself in a situation like that where you're being abused and you've got to get out, that's an awful feeling. It's an awful feeling altogether, and you feel trapped. Well, today, as we end our broadcast today, Char Klisares is with us, and she's got, I think, some good news.
I do.
You've got some good news. Now, you have a foundation. I want to mention this right away. It's called the Secret Foundation. It's CKRET Foundation. And for those watching on Facebook, we did share the Facebook page. But Secret Foundation, what is that, Char?
The Secret Foundation is, our whole purpose is to create education and awareness and funds for domestic abuse. And domestic abuse, any cause that is centered around educating and helping people in domestic abuse situations. And sometimes it just takes money to be able to help somebody. Somebody needs some food. Somebody needs an immediate emergency place to stay overnight. So getting those funds and that money into the different areas, the things that we have going on here in Des Moines for domestic abuse are different than in Florida, than in Texas. And so just like real estate, you'll notice there's no national real estate agent. It's not possible. It's always
Right.
hyper-local. The same thing happens with domestic violence. So having somebody who is going through a transition, who needs real estate assistance anywhere in the world, if they come to our foundation, we will partner them with an agent who will donate 25% of their commissions to a local domestic violence shelter of where they're at, where they're moving to. And that will all, I would hope that the real estate agents there would give credit to whoever bought a house through them. But it's already a behavior that is needed. And so finding ways that we could partner with agents who are wanting to align more with a purpose that means something to them. Behind the scenes, we have a secret referral network that the agents can go and friend and be on, so that as we get these leads in, we'll go there looking for the agents that are in different areas, or we'll put a shout out looking for agents in those areas so that we can connect them and make sure they're a good quality agent also. I would imagine if they're willing to give 25% of their commission to a charity, that's a good start for any agent. But it's incredibly important to make sure that we get funds, awareness, and just bring light to a very dark subject.
Absolutely, it is. Joel, you were had a question, or are you just moving?
Oh, I was just moving.
All right, you're just moving. So let me ask a really ignorant question. So let's say I'm in a situation where just life happens, and I've got to move. So I'm selling my home, and I'm going to buy a new home. Does the Secret Foundation, can I get involved? Can I go to it to have my home buying, selling process through that?
Reach out to us through the internet first, because the needs are different everywhere.
Okay.
And reach out to us through the internet first. We're on Twitter and Facebook, and through that, we'll walk you through the process of what happens next.
Okay.
Because you might want to interview more than one agent. So we want to make sure that if you're wanting to interview more than one agent, that we're putting you in touch with multiple agents who will still align with what your purpose is also.
Absolutely. So, and this is, domestic violence is something that, domestic abuse is something that you were passionate about fighting. And you said in the previous segment, which I think is a kind of a profound statement, they tell us that 50% of folks are affected by this, but you believe it's higher, like 75%. Why do you think it's higher?
I think it's higher because I haven't talked to one person yet who hasn't said they had somebody affected by it. And if you're that person, I would love to meet you. But I'm not finding that is a reality yet. Everyone has a story. Everyone knows somebody. I, in my own life, didn't see this event coming. It wasn't something I planned. They're not events that are planned. And so I think that there's probably a lot more that goes unreported because of all the stigma? Yeah, the stigma that goes on the subject and wanting to just remain off people's radar.
Secret Foundation is spelled Ckaret Foundation. Char Klisares, Real Estate Team. Thanks, Char.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah.
Good job, Facebook.
That went fast.
Oh, I know. That last 5 minutes is almost, we're into it. It's that weird thing of like, we're into it, and then we're
out of it.
We need like this much more, and then we push it right over.
It was good, though. That was good.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Facebook. Bye.
Bye. My virtual will download this and put it out on the YouTube channel, too.
Oh, fantastic.
She's in the Philippines. She's kind of handy.
Wow.
I know.